In this video, I challenged myself to write a short cinematic trailer in just 20 minutes using only the score essentials from SonusScore. But before I show you exactly how I did it, here's the 40-second finished result. Just to be clear, I am not a film composer, either professionally or in any amateur way. Yes, I do write songs, but this is out of my comfort zone. But the idea behind something like the Score Essentials is that it does make it incredibly easy to create cinematic scores quickly. So when SonusScore reached out to me to try out this Kontakt library, I did set myself that challenge of creating that trailer score in just 20 minutes. And this is how I did it. Let's just take a quick overview of the Score Essentials. And although I said at the beginning that this is a Kontakt library, in fact, you only need the free Kontakt player to make use of it. Now, when you first load it up, you may notice that there's three main screens to look at. The first one, the Find screen here, is a place where you select your preset, or stories as they're called in this library. And it's got this really nice kind of tagging system to narrow it down to the ones that you may want for your project. Once you've selected a story, then you may take a look at the shape screen. You can think of this as a kind of a mixer where you can mix the various instruments which are included in your story. And then finally, you have the play screen. This is where you can really fine-tune each individual arpeggio which is being used by each individual instrument in your story. So before I started my 20-minute challenge, I wanted a kind of a theme to work with. So I grabbed some stock footage from Artlist.io, who, by the way, are not sponsoring this video. And I just made sure that all of the clips that I chose were all from the same collection to create a kind of a vibe for an imaginary movie. By the way, let me know in the comments down below what kind of theme or story you would have chosen for this collection of clips. So I started off my challenge on the Find page to look for a suitable story for my trailer, and you can see the full collection of 45 stories over here on the right hand side. And once you've selected one, after a couple of seconds you can try it out right away. So let's try this one, Acoustic Dreams. Nice. Let's try something completely different. Blockbuster action. We'll give it a moment. Let's try it now. Oh. Very cool. You can see that you get great results right away. And finally, let's just try one more. We'll go down to Ethereal Enigma. I haven't tried this one yet. Very nice. Now, I actually used this tagging system to find mine. So I clicked on trailer because I was making a trailer. And although I could have filtered it even further using the style selection here, I quickly found this one, Master Plan. Let's just have a quick listen to it. And that was going to form the basis of my trailer. So once I'd chosen my story, I actually recorded 3 very basic chords to create the basis of my trailer music. Have a quick listen to it now, and when you are listening, take a look at the piano keyboard at the bottom to see just how simple my playing was. Now, of course, from here, you can go ahead and change the balance and things of your instruments by using these sliders. Now, you may notice that some of these sliders or faders are actually split, like this one over here. And basically, that controls the range of volume change as you're using the mod wheel for expression. So as I move the mod wheel up and down now, you will see that for this brass section here, there's just like a little bit of travel in comparison to the drums over here, for example. So that means you're not just sort of fading the whole sound of the story in and out. It's adjusting the balance of the instruments for a different kind of more versatile expression. Now, I used this mod wheel here in the intro in conjunction with the two key switches you can see here. At the moment, it's set to play the main pattern, but if we choose this C here for the first key switch, we change it over to the intro pattern that we can see over here. Now, I use this to fade in gradually to create some tension like this. So right at the end of my piece, I had these kind of stabs, but I didn't want to include all of the instruments from my story in those stabs. So I took a very basic approach. I simply automated some of the mute and solo buttons for these instruments. So keep an eye on those buttons as I play that last little segment. So I wanted to embellish my piece with 3 extra instrument parts. The first being some very high woodwind right at the beginning before the main intro comes in. So to do this, I first loaded up another instance of the score essentials. And when I went to the fine screen here, I actually selected an empty story. Now, once I'd done that, I loaded in this single instance of these woodwinds here. So you can do that just by double clicking at the top of any of these channels here. Then you can select by category and then by section, and then you can choose one of the sounds on the right hand side here. Once I'd done that, for my woodwind section, I just chose a range for the fade in as I used the mod wheel to bring this very subtle high woodwind section in. Have a listen to it, pay attention. It is pretty quiet. And that further kind of added to the tension before the main intro came in. Next, for some impact, I wanted some really big orchestra stabs at the beginning of each bar. So I loaded up yet another instance, and this time I used the big orchestra marcato story, which was sounding like this by itself. Okay, one note at a time on the keyboard, by the way. And in the context of the rest of what I'd done so far, it was sounding like this. Now, to add even more kind of gothic intrigue, I wanted to add in a choir. Now, I took quite a different approach with this one. When I loaded up my story, which in this case was Fantasy Orchestra Staccato, I only wanted to use 2 of the instruments from that story. And then I wanted each of those to play slightly different parts. So I used a very special mode. If you go over to settings, you can set this to external mode. Now, what that means is we can send separate MIDI to each of the instruments in this story. So I did that for these 2 instruments here, which are both choir instances, and by themselves they were sounding like this. Kind of odd sounding, but in the context of my piece so far, they sounded like this. So at this point, I was essentially finished and I hadn't even made use of the play screen features, but I didn't want you to miss out, so I thought we'd take a quick look at those now. So here on the play screen, what I'm going to do is just select one of these sounds to expand the controls for it, and then I'm going to solo it so we can hear exactly what it's doing. Now these bars at the top here are basically controlling the velocity for each step. So I'll drag this one up here and then maybe one of these over here, and we'll have a listen to hear the difference. So that's changed the feel of it right away. Now what I'm going to do is actually drag the bottom of one of these bars to set the lower limit for the velocity. Now why would I do that? Well, we'll find out in just a moment, but I'll do that one and then I'll do, say, this one over here. Now this comes into play when we adjust our mod wheel for sort of expression, and you'll see what it does as I drag the mod wheel down now. It's adjusting those bars where I haven't set that lower limit, yeah, but it's not adjusting the ones where I have. So let's have a listen to the effect of that as I drag it down now. So you can get some really subtle changes in feel if you make use of that feature. Now, at the moment, only one note of the chord I'm playing is actually being played each time. Have a look as I play this again and look at the keys at the bottom to see the full chord that I'm actually playing. Now we're only using one note at a time because with each step only one of these dots is selected each time down here. So let's say, for example, I wanted to play 3 notes of the chord down here with this step. So I'm just going to click on these 3 dots here and have a listen to that step. Again, really changing the feel of this pattern. It's a very powerful feature, and probably if I really wanted to refine this trailer music, then I would make use of this page. As someone who really doesn't write orchestral music, I've been really impressed with the Score Essentials, not only because you can get results extremely fast in an intuitive way, but also because it maintains flexibility. So for example, I can still create completely unique and original individual instrument parts, and I get a lot of control over production and arrangement as well. I've just really enjoyed using it. Now, if it's something you think you might like to make use of, don't forget to follow the link in the description down below. So let me know what kind of projects you're excited to use this library on. And if you've already used the Score Essentials, let me know in the comments down below how you got along. My name is Mike. I hope you're well, and I'll see you in the next video.